Well,
no, not extensive that. They now include my little dog salad.
I love my aprons. I just love to look at them. They are all vibrant. When I look at aprons and I see the colors, I'm drawn to color. As my apron journey progresses, I've become more interested in the history of aprons. Maybe that's why I feel I have such a connection to so many of the homemakers whose aprons are in my collection.
I'm with EllynAnne Geisel, author, collector, designer, and apron archaeologist who loves nothing more than to tie one on. Aprons, of course. EllynAnne, there are so many different aprons here, so many different eras. Tell us about this one.
This is the apron that I bought for 25 cents in a secondhand store in 1999. And when I examined the stitching on this, I realized it was sewn by a homemaker, and I began to wonder what her voice was like. And that's what set me on the apron journey, traveling around America with a laundry basket of old aprons for 4 years, listening to people's stories and collecting aprons along the way.
EllynAnne has taken her love of aprons and storytelling and turned them into a national traveling exhibit called Apron Chronicles. She's also the author of books, the Kitchen Linens book and the Apron book. And my favorite, this little book called Apronisms, where my favorite quote is marked with a clothespin. Aprons plus your pearls equals everyday chic.
Aprons to me are connectors to the women of earlier generations. When you see the stitching of an apron that was sewn by hand, you figure, when in the world did she do this? She had a busy day. She didn't have the conveniences that most of us take for granted. This is an apron from the Victorian times. You can see how tiny her waist was because she was corseted, and this was actually to show her needlepoint talent, which when she wore this, a suitor would be very, very impressed and realize that she would know how to run a house and be an excellent homemaker, wife, and mother. In yesteryear, aprons had a very clear purpose. They needed to protect the clothing underneath because we didn't have all that much. Everything was difficult long time ago, and when I look at an apron, I see the heart and soul and story of a woman of a household. It was important to her to safeguard the clothing that she was wearing. So an apron was domestic armor. This apron has two stories. One, the talent of the seamstress involved to put this chevron look together, and a second story for her thriftiness. Sad thing, somehow it got ripped. It was wartime. We did not have extra fabric, so she just stitched it right up. She lived by the credo, use it up, wear it out, make do or do without. For a lot of people, aprons are no longer a drudge accessory. They are more a kitschy accessory. These have voices, aprons with an opinion, and this is an apron that has attached a tea towel. It wasn't only the women who tied one on, the men also. The backyard daddy barbecuers, they had their own genre of apron, hugely collectible because the grease and splatter from those barbecues ruined their aprons. She wore this apron for her husband's annual Christmas party, and then she tied this apron on for New Year's Eve, which, I mean, this little champagne pocket, it has absolutely no use. I just love the adorableness of it. So, you know, the bubbles or the sequins coming out of it is just so cute.
Modern, retro, vintage, or antique. Aprons don't hold us back, they take us back.
When I left on my apron journey, what I discovered is everybody has a story to share. That's the incredible part, is the apron is this memory trigger, and once you remember a time, a place, a recipe, an occasion, the person who is wearing the apron who produced that occasion, she comes back to you through your stories.
Vintage Colorado is funded in part by RubyLane.com, featuring thousands of independent shops showcasing quality antiques and art, vintage collectibles, and jewelry items from around the world. www.rubylane.com.